Hello, welcome back to Moroccan Country Life. I've had lots of people actually asking me to show a little bit more about the Renault 4 GTL, the Aircat. Well, I thought today perhaps I might take an opportunity to show you some of the jobs that needed to be done here on the Aircat to bring it perhaps up to a little bit more scratch, should we say. There are one or two bits and pieces that have been neglected. I want to say here and now, I just like to tinker on cars. I'm not an expert on Aircats, so any of you purists out there, perfectionists, this might not be quite the video for you, or you're going to be probably as bored as me pulling your hair out watching it. But I just want to bring you along for the journey, just to show you what sort of things that perhaps need to be done in order, as I say, to get the car up to standard and up to scratch. Well, some of them, including one of them, needs to be done quite urgently. Going along our lovely terrain here in LGD in the countryside, the rear view mirror fell off, and to my surprise and shock, it was just simply glued on with a bit of super glue, and someone had managed to scrape the glass windscreen just to manage to get it to adhere to it. So one of the things that I find quite annoying with the Aircat are the doors. They do not seem to close properly. There seems to be this little gap here. Now, I thought perhaps it would be relatively straightforward just to adjust the hinge there. I have adjusted it to its maximum, but unfortunately the door still remains open ajar. And that seems to be the case a little bit with the other side, but not as prominent as this. And one of the problems being is there happens to be a bit of a gap here, and when driving, there's this constant rattle where the door's not being closed properly. So that needs to be addressed, because it's a possibility in the next month or so we might get some rain, and that will definitely leak in through the top of the door, as well as going over the old bumpy roads. It's incredibly noisy. So that's a must to do, urgent on the list. Now, let's take a look inside. Someone asked me in the last video, how do the seats actually decline or fold down? Well, I've got my cushions here in the front. So, remove the cushions, and if we can see there on both sides happens to be a little wheel. So you have to undo that on both sides. Reach in there and undo that one there. So as you can see, it's been lifted away. So basically what happens is you put your hand on the back of the seat here, pull the seat, oh yes that's right, pull the seat, and then you can just flip it up. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the size of that there. So creakety crickety crick. Look at that. Hey, you can get a year's shopping in there. I went out yesterday and brought a couple of bags of what we call sickling, or layers mash as we know it in the UK. Two of those, and plopped it in the back of there with no problem, and I may add, without the seats being folded down. Went in there a treat. Car drove a treat, not a problem. So yeah, I mean, it's, as I say, it needs a little bit of a clean. I'd like to polish up those plastic lenses at the back. But yeah, I love this car. That's the old, I don't know what that plastic thing's for. I've no idea what that's been put there for. But that's the scratch scraped windscreen that used to hold the mirror there. So I'm thinking I might simply take this out, this part here, drill a hole through it, and then mount it somehow to that nut there, that screw there in the roof lining. And I think that would be better, because I do know when it was there for a brief time, It really did take up an awful lot of view of the screen, so I think holding it up a little bit, putting it up a little, fixing it up a bit higher there may actually give better visibility out the front too. The other thing is there doesn't appear to be any 12-volt charging point in here. I mean, obviously we've got the radio squeezed in down there, but there's no, as I say, there's no 12-volt charging point. And I've got one of these power packs, which I find very, very, very useful. And I'd like to obviously keep that on charge all the time. And in case of an emergency, it does have a new battery in it, but still, nevertheless, I think it's always wise to have one of those. Although I do charge it in the other car, it would be just nice to have that additional feature of a 12-volt. Now, let's have a look under the bonnet. Okay. There she is, the monster of an engine. 1108 cc's of pure 4-cylinder muscle power that produces a staggering 39 brake horsepower. Okay, it's not bad, it's not bad. I have managed to replace the front, because this is obviously the gear changing link. Gearbox being mounted down there in the front. So I managed to locate one of those. This one I haven't. I mean, it has seen better days, but you know, it's still holding on there. And the other thing, if I go around the other side, the other thing that I had to do, this engine was rebuilt by the previous owner. It had new big end shells, the old shells that go around the crankshaft to us lay people, and it had a new oil pump and a few other bits and pieces, timing chain, etc. I'm not 100% sure through language issues exactly why he did that. Apparently the car was still working well, but he all of a sudden felt that he wanted to tinker on the engine, and he got someone in Casablanca to do the engine work. Some of the valves were incredibly tight and tickety, so those that were tickety obviously needed to be tightened, and the other ones were way too tight. So I don't know if I've got a teeny bit of an oil leak down there going on where I disturbed the rocker cover gasket. I'm not sure. I don't know, that could be old. Who knows? What else? Yes, the belts were replaced by him, but they were replaced before the engine rebuild. So I gave it an oil change, the oil filter. Quite a tight space down there. And for love nor money, I do not know why, but that oil filter, the previous one, was put on so tight, even with my wrench, the oil filter was collapsing with me trying to remove it. They're only supposed to be just over hand tight, little smear of oil around the rubber seal, and just hand tighten them. So yes, she runs an awful lot better. I mean, these old types of engines will always tick regardless. They're not the most refined, I wouldn't say, but I tell you what, they're very, very strong, I have to say. It's a really lovely engine, no smoke, gear change is excellent. Yeah. Even my cat likes it. Keeps trying to jump in. You're not getting back in the car, okay? Accept it. It's life. I've managed to replace the HT leads. The spark plugs are pretty new, but the old dizzy cap has definitely seen better days, and so has the rotor arm. So I'm going to try and get one of those. I will put up on the screen exactly which type of distributor cap it is. Oh, and I need this and this lead here, it goes to the coil. That's really quite stiff. That was the only one I couldn't replace. Yep, brand new battery. What I'm going to do in future videos is show you step by step some of these improvements that perhaps need to be done. The purists out there are going to hate what I'm doing. It's just a car used for Moroccan country life, as I say before, to pick up all the bits and pieces we need out here in the countryside, and vegetables and all that sort of thing. Very, very useful. It's quite tinny in sound, I have to say, in terms of if you hit the potholes, everything bangs around and rattles and stuff like that. But I have to say, everything rattles and bangs around when you hit potholes. But she's not a bad looking car in terms of bodywork. I mean, yes, it's probably been painted, you know, a few hundred times, but yeah. So, if you enjoy watching this type of video, you're going to see a few more of them. So yeah, please give us a thumbs up. And if you like this content, please subscribe. Any comments, any opinions are really appreciated. And go and have a look at some of the other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching.